Hospitals at home. I know. Let's take something that isn't working and turn it on its head into something that definitely won't work. Hospitals at home. Well, that will solve the problem of bed blocking, because the sick can stay at home and then be visited by the nurses and monitored at home. And the well, who don't need a bed, can stay in hospital. Then the sick won't need to wait for a bed taken by somebody who's perfectly well. Because, frankly, we haven't solved the problem at the other end, which is bed blocking. I want to like the idea of not going to hospital, but why do I feel like I smell a rat? Perfectly well individuals in hospital and the sick at home. You know when you call for an appointment and they offer you a call back from the doctor or a remote appointment? Well, how well does that work out for you? In my experience, they're pretty poor. But let's be fair, let's examine the idea to relieve pressure on the NHS. So the idea is more than 500,000 people will be treated at home. Elderly and frail patients who fall, for example, will be treated by video link. Does that mean they'll be left where they've fallen? Sounds pretty impractical to me. A few questions. What if they don't have a webcam or even internet? Who hooks up the video link? And if they've fallen and are immobilised, how will they operate the equipment? And if they don't have a computer, who will pay for it? Although, to be fair, the last time I looked, it cost over 500 quid per day to stay in hospital, so possibly buying them a computer is probably cheaper. Look, I actually quite like the idea because I'd rather stay at home any day than go to hospital. But I'm a bit concerned that the elderly and frail patients, who, in my view, are one of the most vulnerable groups, will be left to fend for themselves. I mean, granted, most elderly people want a sense of independence, but my worry is even though the monitoring will be apparently 24/7, that they'll be left on their own when further assistance may well be needed. For example, if they've fallen, who will help them to the bathroom? Who will make their meals? How will they clean their house? Normal, practical, day-to-day things can be very difficult when you're incapacitated. And this idea, although it seems good because it's happening in some places like Warwickshire, where patients can arrange a video call and paramedics can be sent to them and work out the best course of action, the Telegraph actually reported that this led to a 16% reduction in the number of over 75s who were taken to hospital. And there are other similar versions of this. It's also been trialled in London in October last year, where a community nurse was sent out with paramedics, which were able to cut the likelihood of going to A&E in half. But I'm sceptical because I believe more attention needs to be placed on the root of the problem, which is bed blocking and ultimately social care. May I suggest that the government solve the problem rather than tucking in the edges?